as long as I am in the world.
I am the light of the world.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Jesus Talk live stream. I am your host, Dari. And today, I have a very special guest with us. As you guys may or may not know, his name is C2SIX. His name is Carlos, but we call him C2SIX here, because that's his rapper name. And as I promised you guys, we have another testimony coming up today. We're going to be hearing his testimony. How did he get into Catholic rap? And as you guys have seen, we've had a lot of back-to-back rappers on here. And a lot of these people I met through the Kentucky conference, and he's one of those amazing people that we actually met. So I'm very, very excited to get to dive into his testimony, get to dive into who is he, and the beautiful thing is, how did he implement his Catholic faith into the music? Which is something we don't really see every day. So very excited to be here. If you guys are new here, my name's Ari. Very excited, and I hope you guys enjoy this. And as always, if you guys have any questions for our guests throughout any time during our live stream, please go ahead and drop them in the live chat, and we will get to them when we can. But first and foremost, brother, thank you so much for being here with us today. I'm very excited to have you on.
Up, everybody.
Yeah. So
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, and it was a pleasure meeting you out in Kentucky. And it's always good. It's one of my favorite things about being a musician and being out, and about doing different concerts, different events, is meeting people like yourself. And it's always a pleasure to kind of develop these working relationships and this fellowship, right? So appreciate it, and thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us and getting the time to share your story. I know we talked a little bit earlier, a little bit about your story, and I really think that everybody that's listening, I really think you guys are in for a really big treat because his testimony is, we've heard a lot of testimonies on this channel, but man, it's a beautiful thing to know the way that God really does work, even through the most insane things that we experience. And but God is good all the time. So
Amen.
yeah.
Amen.
So before we start off, as always, we can't start off a stream without prayer. So, brother, would you actually lead us into prayer today if you can?
It'd be my pleasure, sure. So we're going to say in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. Father in heaven, we come to you today in the name of your Son Jesus, and in communion with the Holy Spirit, one God forever and ever. And we just ask for your guidance and your blessings. We ask for your mercy and your grace. We ask for your forgiveness for anything we might have done that's fallen short of your glory, of your honor. Um, we ask that you bless all the listeners today. That whoever's listening, they're here for a reason. It's not by accident. You've called them here to hear what it is that you want them to hear. So help them bring to fruition whatever it is that you want, for them to get out of this conversation. Even if it's myself or Adi, help us to get whatever it is that you want for us to get out of this conversation. And just want to ask uh, for anybody out there who is dealing with any specific issues, any prayers. We don't know those specific intentions, but God, you do know those intentions. And we just want to ask that you would, answer their petitions in accordance with your will. And we ask you all this through the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
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 May the angels and the saints pray for us.
Amen.
All right, so let's get started, brother. So, as I mentioned, guys, I met him at the Kentucky conference. Another amazing, incredible artist, and I met a lot of great people there. And you were one of the lucky people that I ended up meeting. And I gotta say, the energy on stage was crazy, and it's really cool. Like it's really cool when I get to go to these kind of events because you get to really like it's like a whole new experience. It's like when you find a new favorite song or when you find an artist that you never heard of before and you're like, whoa, like this is really good. It's like, where have you been all my life? Like, that's how it kind of felt for me at Kentucky. Cause I met yourself, Prodigal, and Val, like so many amazing artists. I was like, I've never heard of these people before. I'm like, but this is really good. So I'm really excited we actually got to do this. So one of the important questions that I have for you today. To kind of start us off is, can you kind of share with us, what was life like before you started your music, and maybe just kind of walk us through some of the things that maybe you lived through, whether you know, were you raised Catholic, were you not raised Catholic, um,
Hmm.
and just some of the experience that you went through, and then what led up to you wanting to do music.
I'll give you kind of like the Chat GPT kind of bullet point version of my story, and then we can kind of circle back and touch on each of those points as we go along, right? Um, and we can spend more time on whatever you want to spend more time on, but um, basically, I was born and raised in a Catholic household. My mom and dad were both practicing Catholics. My mom, actually, my mom was discerning the religious life at a point in time. She was in the process of becoming a nun, and before her final vows, she discerned out and decided that she wanted to be married and have a family. So, um, in a kind of a selfish way, I'm kind of thankful for that because otherwise I wouldn't have been here, right? So, um, hey, it might be selfish, but okay. My dad, I'm not going to say he wasn't a believer or an active, you know, practice. He's actively practicing the faith, but um, in my early years, he didn't really go to mass with us, right? He definitely made sure that we went to mass with our mother and that we did, everything we were supposed to do, our sacraments and whatnot. But he didn't go to mass with us, and he didn't get back into his faith until later on in his life, right? Or maybe I shouldn't say back into his faith, but he didn't start kind of practicing more frequently and more um, consistently until his later life. I mean, um, in my early childhood, I kind of suffered through quite a bit of things, quite a few things, and that kind of just led me to a place where, um, like I believed in God, but I didn't feel God's love in my life. That's where kind of my struggle was, and I think it's a grace in and of itself that I was able to always believe in God despite what I was going through, and so it was kind of weird, because sometimes I would think to myself like, God, I'd rather not believe in you than to believe in you and not think that you love me. Right. And I don't know, that was maybe kind of a weird way of thinking back then, but that's how I thought, right, as a young person. And so it just, I kind of felt myself, even though I believed and I never was like, at least in the early part of my life, I was never like opposed to anything in the church. I just couldn't feel God's love. Right. And so I just kind of felt myself getting kind of more or kind of getting more to the point where I was just going through the motions to please my parents, right? And so that was that, right? And we can circle back to all this. Um come high school, in middle school, late part of middle school, high school, I really started getting involved with a lot of crazy things, drugs, alcohol, partying, gang activity, um, selling drugs, all those types of things, again, sexual sin, all kinds of things, right? And so that was, again, it's kind of pretty early because I was middle school, high school. I mean, we were doing all this crazy stuff, and so it got to a point where it was pretty. I use the word dangerous. It got dangerous for a while, right? It got bad. Had been shot at multiple times, been jumped and stabbed, and been this my cars got shot up and they shot at my house, and it was crazy. It was a little crazy, right? But um my confirmation, no, I'm sorry, my youth group leaders at the time, um at that time back in the 90s, back in this like 94 probably, right? um Might have even been late 93, but I think it was 94. um they they knew what was going on with me. They knew, everything that was going on and the trouble I was getting into. And at that time, they used to let the youth leaders hold the youth groups at their house, their youth group gatherings. So that we would meet at their house, and they felt like I was kind of putting the other kids in harm's way by being there, right? And so they asked me to stop coming to the youth group class, right? Or the youth group. And so for me, that was kind of like my getaway or my safe place, so to say. And I was really hurt. I was really hurt by the fact that they asked me to stop coming, right? And I kind of get it, thinking back in retrospect, but at the time, I just kind of felt like they were, discriminating against me or just being unfair or whatever the case was, right? And so I really kind of stepped back from my faith at that time, right? Um, I did, however, again, and this is mostly just to please my parents. I did continue with my confirmation classes. When I because what happened after that is I got kicked out of my high school. And it was my senior year, right? And I got kicked out. My high school had a policy that was like zero tolerance for gang activity. And when I got jumped, they considered that to be gang activity. And so they kicked me out, even though I was the one that got jumped, right? So they kicked me out over it. And then I went to a different school and they kicked me out on the first day at that school. And so I ended up getting third party out of the whole district. I mean, and my parents, sent me to go live with my aunt and my uncle down in Laredo, Texas. And so I was there for a period of time. So I was kind of, I was kind of angry at the time, because I'm like, it's my senior year. I'm away from my friends. I'm away from my family. I'm in all this trouble. And in those years, back then, gang violence was crazy. Um, my middle school and high school years, I lost 26 friends to gang violence,
Sheesh.
right? Um, in those what is that, 7 years of middle school and high school, you mean? And so it was nuts back then, you know. So, I was able to get away, came back, and I had kind of gotten out of harm's way, so to say. Um, but I wanted to continue on that path. So I was like, well, I gotta start doing something different, And so I started working and like a regular job, and I started going to a junior college for a short period of time. And I I met a guy who was a local rapper, but he was good though. He was a really good rapper. Um, in at the junior college, and he started letting me tag along with him and his kind of crew to all the different battles and open mics and different things like that. All throughout our area. I live in the Dallas Fort Worth area, so all the things going on over here or in Austin or San Antonio or Houston or all these different places, and I kind of was looking along thinking like, man, I could do this, like, because I was already kind of rapping on my own ever since I was a kid. And my brother brought home a Run DMC cassette tape when I was in third grade. And ever since then, I started like rapping and writing my own lyrics. So I was little. It was probably 86, 87. You mean? And so, anyways, I would tag along with him. And then one day I finally had enough nerve to be like, let me get up there doing rap, like, because prior to that, I had never rapped in front of anybody except my friends. We'd be at house parties or raves or, things like that, but never like in front of a crowd of people who doesn't know me, right? So I went out there and I battled and I won all the battles that I got into and all the freestyle competitions and I was like, man, this is kind of cool, what I mean? But it wasn't paying the bills. It was fun. But it wasn't paying the bills. So I kind of strayed away from that, kept working and stuff. And I met my wife at the time, and so I was like, I really wanted to stay on that straight and narrow path. And it's funny to say, like more so for my wife at the time than even for God. It was kind of like I wanted to be like, I didn't want my wife to be like, man, is he out getting shot at? Is he out getting jumped? Is he out selling drugs or doing drugs? Or is he out, is there a bunch of womanizing going on around him, stuff like that. And so I was like, I'm trying to go on just straight and narrow. And it's kind of funny because like I feel like somehow or another hip hop kept pulling me back in, right? And so I met this dude that was working at a grocery store when I was working for a beverage distributor, right? Or a beverage company. I was working for well, I'll just say I was working for Coca-Cola, right? And I would be like going to all these different stores, doing deliveries and merchandising and doing all this sales and stuff like that. And this guy overheard me just kind of messing around with some of the guys that worked the store, just rapping back and forth, having little battles and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And he heard me and he's like, "Hey man, my bro is starting like a local record label, looking for talent, man. Why don't you go talk to him?" I was like, "All right, cool, I'll do that." So I went and talked to this dude named Mondo. He had a label called Enthron Records, right? And we kind of teamed up. We started kind of like building the label up from there and like recruiting new artists and putting out music. And now I'm like, we're putting out music, but it was gangster rap. You mean? Because back then everything was gangster rap. You know? So it's all gangster rap. It's all vulgar. It's all violent. It's all sexual. It's all the crazy things that you might associate with that, right? And so we did that, and we were selling CDs out in the street because back then people used to sell CDs in the streets. I mean, you pop in the trunk, get a backpack, sell CDs, right? So we were doing that, and we started doing real well doing it. Like we were making a lot of money, selling a lot of CDs, and that started leading us to getting bookings like regionally, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, New Mexico, places like that. That went on for a little bit, but then I decided to start my own thing, start my own group called SKS back then, and we started getting even bigger bookings and working with bigger artists. So we were doing like more national type tours, opening big for big artists, people like I don't know if you're familiar with them. You're pretty. I imagine you're pretty young, but we were opening for people like Bone Thugs and Cypress Hill and Fat Joe and 3 6 Mafia and South Park
That's,
Mexican.
yeah.
Uh,
So, some of them
yeah,
are familiar. Yeah.
yeah. So we were doing all that, and it was cool. We were making some good money doing it. Had a little hood fame, right? Um, but it was not fulfilling at all. Even it's like this is what I was chasing my whole life, and it's not fulfilling. Like I'm missing something, right? And I realized that it's like I kind of left that life, you know, in a way. But now, like I'm over here, and we're at these concerts, we're at these clubs, right? And all the same things are still going on. There's still a lot of drugs. There's still a lot of alcohol. There's still a lot of womanizing. There's still a lot of fighting. There's still a lot of, I'm like, man, this is just not what I was wanting it to be, right? It was not what I expected out of it, right? And you know, um, in the back of my mind, I always knew that what I was doing was wrong. Because remember, I was raised in the faith, so I knew what I was doing was wrong. But I just kept fighting it, you know what I mean? Um, and skipping ahead a little bit, I'm going real fast right now, but I ended up having a concert in my hometown in Fort Worth, um, where the promoter told me it was going to be 1,500 people. It was going to be an all ages event, and I didn't know what he meant by all ages. And then come to find out when I get there, all the people that are there, the 1,500 people that are there, are middle school and high school aged youth. That's what they mean by all ages, right? It's just kind of like the cool way to say a youth concert or a teeny bopper concert, like you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so my mouth, like my jaw dropped, and I was like, "This is nuts!" Like I can't say this stuff to these kids. And like it was just crazy because like they all knew our lyrics. They all, if everything we said, if we said jump up and down, they did it. If we said put your hands up, they did it. Whatever we said, they did it and they repeated it. And I was just like, man, this is. I should be telling them, go home and hug your parents and do your homework and read your Bible, go to church, you
Don't
know,
do drugs, kids.
don't do drugs, go drink some milk. It does your body good, whatever you mean, stuff like
Uh-huh.
that. And instead, I'm up there all this other crazy stuff, and I was like, yeah, this is nuts, man. I can't do this, you know. And so like after the concert, I went to the host, not the host, but the promoter, organizer, and I was like, bro, like, why would you book a bunch of gangster rappers for young kids, man? This is wild, bro. This is nuts. And we had a little heated argument back and forth, you know, and um, he said, "Oh, I told him, I said, you should be ashamed of yourself, bro, for this, you know." And he's like, "Man, I'm not the one rapping it, bro. You should be ashamed of yourself." And so I was just like, "Ooh," you know what I mean? That one hurt because he was right, you know what I mean? And so later, like a little bit after that, I walked over to our little VIP area, like the section they had sectioned out for us, you know, and I just ducked my head on this table and I sat there and I just cried like uncontrollably, you know what I mean? And you know, obviously you know, I knew it was God, you know what I mean? And it took me a long time to really kind of understand why I was crying so much, I mean, and you know, I think a lot of it was that conviction from the Holy Spirit, but I think um maybe even a bigger thing there was that I was 30 years old at the time. You know what I mean? '07 when this is happening, you mean? And and I think remember I told you earlier that I never felt God's love, right? Well, that night was the first night that I actually remember feeling God's love. Like I felt like tangibly like God was touching me and embracing me and telling me I have something better for you. You know, I'm calling you something greater, you know what I mean? And ironically, I think a lot of that was kind of like put into motion, or maybe even like kind of brought to its pivotal moment by my dad, who was the one who was not as devout as my mom, right? Because I had an argument with my dad a couple of weeks before this concert happened, and my dad was like, he said that he would never be got caught dead at one of my shows, like he'd rather die than go to my show, right?
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, all right. And so we had kind of a little bit of an argument, you know, and I was just like, Dad, like you should never be proud of me, huh? You know, like I can't do anything right for you. Like I never like, you know, because we bumped heads quite a bit, you know. Um, and I just, you know, we just had this kind of argument, you know, and I was pretty disappointed, you know, or angry, you know, that he said that. And he's like, you know, I'm not saying that you're not talented, and I'm not saying that you don't have a gift. He's like, you're just not getting it. He's like, who gave you the gift? And I said, well, in kind of a proud way, it kind of beat my chest. I was like, you know, God gave me this gift, you know, you know. And he's like, yeah, you're right. God gave you the gift, but what are you doing with the gift? He's like, you're turning around and you're using the gift that He gave you to slap Him in the face, you know. And it was again kind of a mic drop moment where I was just like, I can't argue with that, you know. What I mean? Yeah, I knew he was right, you know, and that was only a couple of weeks before that concert. So I think that kind of, you know, really kind of brought this to the tipping point, right? Where this is, yeah, it's crazy stuff, you know what I mean? So, um, yeah, I told God that day, it's like, yeah, I don't know what you're calling me to, God. I just know I want to follow you. Um, and you would think I came directly back to the Catholic Church, but I didn't. Um, I allowed some well-meaning, but misguided or misinformed Protestant brothers and sisters to lead me away from the Catholic Church for a period of time, right? Um, so I kind of spent a good two, almost 3 years in the Protestant world, kind of church hopping, mostly in like non-denominational churches. For a short period, I was at a Church of Christ church. Um, my older brother is a Church of Christ minister, and so I did, you know, look into that a little bit and spend a little time there. But um, yeah, it's kind of wild, you know, being there. And I became kind of anti-Catholic for a period of time. Not kind of, I was pretty vehemently anti-Catholic for a period of time. I mean, but not out of like spite or hatred. I just honestly believed at the time that they were wrong and then I was right. You know what I mean? You know how that goes. And so um, it wasn't until I told myself one day, like, I don't have any desire like to slander or bear false witness or lie about anybody or anything. I was like, like if I have to resort to that to quote unquote draw people to God, you mean, or to quote unquote evangelize people, that's not evangelization and that's not God's will. God doesn't want us lying about each other, slandering each other, right? And so I would tell myself, like, because I would hear all these Protestant brothers, sisters say things about the Catholic Church or about Catholics that I knew were not true. You mean? And I was like, well, guys, like I don't agree with, you know, I don't agree with the Marian dogmas at the time. I didn't. I mean, but to say that Catholics worship Mary, it's not true. You don't have to say that. Like, it's just not true. Like, if you don't agree with what they teach about Mary, that's one thing, and there's room for conversation there. But if you're going to lie about them and say they worship Mary, well, now you're stepping outside of what God expects from us as fishers of men, right? Right now you're stepping into slander, false witness. You mean? And so I would catch myself defending Catholics from misinformed, misconcept or what's the word I'm looking for? Misconceptual attacks. You mean? Even though I didn't want to be Catholic, I would catch myself defending them. You mean? And slowly but surely, I was just like, man, like I'm realizing I don't disagree with the Catholic Church as much as I thought I did. You know what I mean? And so I just kind of get a little further into that, and eventually the pastor challenged me about the Eucharist. And so he said, like, do you believe that Jesus is truly present in that Eucharist and I don't know what, his body, blood, soul, and divinity, and I don't know what. And that was my first time ever hearing somebody even use that type of language about the Eucharist. And it's coming from a Protestant minister. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know what to believe because I don't remember learning that when I was in my CCD classes and my confirmation classes. I was like, I probably learned it, but I don't remember because it went in one ear out the other. I was doing everything else except paying attention. You know what I mean? And so I said, let me go find out if that's what we believed as Catholics, and from there I'll figure out what to do. You mean, or how to approach it, right? So I started studying about the Eucharist, and um, spoiler alert, you mean like if you don't want to become Catholic, don't study the Eucharist and what the early church believed about the Eucharist, and the majority of Christians today believe about the Eucharist. I mean, it'll bring you back to the Catholic Church, and that's what happened with me. It brought me back. I just realized, like, man, this is this if this is Jesus at the Eucharist and at the altar, or in the Eucharist at the altar, right? I can't picture myself being anywhere else. If I'm gonna profess to love Jesus and I'm doing this for Jesus' sake, whatever, right? I can't be like, yeah, Jesus, I know that's you at the altar. I know that's you in the Eucharist, but Pastor Bob gives a great, great sermon. You mean? Does that make sense? It's like,
Oh
don't
yeah.
get me wrong. That's a good thing. I'm not knocking them. You mean? I developed great zeal. I developed a love for Scripture. I developed a prayer life in the Protestant church. You mean? But we're supposed to worship in spirit and truth, right? Sometimes I say, at least in my experience, I feel like a lot of times Protestants have the zeal that Catholics lack, right? The spirit that
Yeah.
Catholics lack. And a
Mhm.
lot of times Catholics have the truth that Protestants lack. And we're supposed to worship in spirit and truth. I mean, we got to find a way to,
Mhm.
to to marry those things, right? And
Mhm.
so that's kind of what I thought. And so I was like, how do I get back into my Catholic faith? And I realized I was just like one good confession away, you know. So I went to confession. Actually, I made an appointment with my parish priest because I knew it was going to be a long one. And it was my first ever heartfelt confession.
Mhm.
And I was already like close to 33, maybe 33 already. My very first ever heartfelt confession. I had confessed 3 or 4 times prior to that in my life. Before my first confession as a kid, because they made us. I mean, before I said my first communion, right? Before my confirmation, they made us do it again, right? Before I got married, They made me confess. I got married at a pretty young age. I was 22, right? But they made us confess before we got married. And yeah, so it was my fourth time to ever go to confession. And it was my first heartfelt confession. And I sat there with that priest for like an hour and a half, maybe hour and a half. And I was bawling my eyes out. Like I was like, how did I turn into this like crybaby? Like, like gosh, man. And so, anyways, yeah, so I had already begun like a Christian hip hop um career, so to say, right? But when I initially started doing Christian hip hop, it was from a very like a Protestant perspective. But then, 2 or 3 years into it, after reverting to the Catholic faith, I was like, well, I have to kind of like reinvent this now. Like, I don't want to, like, it's still Christian hip hop, right? Because we're Catholic, we're Christians, right? But when I say Christian hip hop, a lot of people assume that I'm Protestant, and I don't want them to make that assumption. I want them to know, no, we're Catholic, man. We're Christians. And so that's why I started saying Catholic hip hop. You know what I mean? And I didn't know how that was going to go over. You know what I mean? So I'm basically kind of reinventing myself for the third time, and I'm already in my 30s. You know what I mean? And I'm like, how is this going to go over? Like, you know what I mean? And God just started opening doors left and right for me. Started opening doors to all these different events to go speak, to perform. Different radio and TV programs. EWTN and all these what do you call it? The Salon World TV and the Jennifer Fulwiler show and conversations with Cardinal Dolan and all these other shows. It's like, wow, this is crazy. Most recently I was on the Salt and Light Radio in Toronto. They're kind of like the equivalent of like EWTN radio, but for Canada, right? So I was out there, and so yeah, it's just kind of crazy how that happened, and I've
I know you were
continued now
also
for.
on what was it called? It was another network. I'm not sure if it was EWTN or what, but you shared your story as well, your testimony. Um
It's been a few.
I know
Salome
it
World.
was a Catholic one. It was a Catholic one, and it basically like the whole entire thing is about like coming home, like basically like coming
Oh, the
home back
Journey
to faith.
Home. The
Yeah,
Journey
yeah,
Home
yeah, that one.
with
Yeah,
Marcus
yeah, yeah,
Grodi. Yeah, with Marcus Grodi.
yeah,
Yeah, that was EWTN. Yeah, that was
yeah.
EWTN.
That was
Yeah.
great. That's great.
Thank you. Thank you. So that's a long story short, I guess you'd say. That Chat GPT version of it. Um, I've now been doing this for I started doing Christian rap in 2008. So I started doing Christian rap. And I started doing it from a distinctly Catholic perspective in 2010. And so so I'm about 18 years into Christian rap, 16 years into doing it from a very overtly
Mm.
Catholic, perspective. And I, people ask me, how long are you going to keep doing this? And I say, man, until God sees fit to have me stop, until he keeps opening doors, and as long as he keeps calling me to it, I'm going to keep doing it. I mean, um, especially nowadays, because I'm kind of, in a sense, kind of retired from like 9 to 5 type work. You mean? I don't
Mm.
work outside of this, outside of my music and ministry. I don't have any other type of work other than this, so I'm pretty free right now. So, to be able to do what God needs me to do. My kids are older too, so they don't need a whole lot of guidance from me. Like my daughter's 25, my son's 17. You
I'm
know,
25 as well. Hey, I think
are you
same
25?
age. Yeah, I'm
Oh wow,
25. Yeah,
wow, that's
same age as your
awesome.
daughter. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Yeah. My wife and I have been married this year. We'll make in November 2026, we'll make 27 years of marriage.
Wow, that's
Yeah, yeah.
beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, I'm sorry to kind of, you know,
No, you're good.
get windy on you, get long-winded on you, but that's the story in a nutshell, right? So we can go back
Um,
and touch on any of that, that you want to go back and touch on or.
mm. um, so I do have a question. So, when you started to kind of come back into the church, um, did your parents notice that at all? Like, were your parents there during that time? How was your relationship with your parents before, and then, like, basically anything else that you kind of want to share about that?
So my like most, I'm gonna expose a lot of us Mexican guys. Okay, like most Mexican guys, I was a mama's boy, right? I was a mama's
Oh,
boy. My mom, I was so close to my mom. I loved my mom, so much, and so she she became sick. In I want to say it was 98, 99. She became sick with cancer, right? Originally it started off in her ovaries, and she was able to kind of beat that. But then when it came back um, in her pancreas. And pancreatic cancer is very very aggressive, and most people don't last very long once they've got pancreatic cancer. So my mom was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and she lived a very short time after that. She passed in January 2002, and at the time, actually, I was 25. No, let me see, I was still 24. I hadn't turned 25. I was going to turn 25 that year in April, right? So at the time, I was I was not living a life of faith, a life of virtue, a life of I was still kind of back in that old lifestyle. So I spent a long time after her death kicking myself in the butt um, because she didn't get to see me change. You know what I mean? And then of course nowadays I think back about that, and I'm a firm believer that her prayers from heaven, and I firmly believe that she is in heaven. Um, are at least part of the reason why I am here doing what I'm doing today. You know what I mean? Um, I really do feel that, and I feel like I've gotten confirmation on that before from God. One of the things, a couple of, well, there's one thing that I really felt was like a sign. Um, it was kind of crazy. So like for a long time, I would have these dreams that my mom was coming to me and telling me, I need you to go to my closet, go to my bedroom, go to my closet, and I need you to find something. And I was like, but what am I looking for? She's like, you'll know when you find it. It's like, well, that's not helpful. I need to know what I'm looking for. And you'll know when you find it. Go to my
yeah.
closet. Just listen to me. Go to my closet and find it. And I would have this dream, and I had it for a long time. It was a recurring dream, and I would tell my wife about it. I tell my siblings about it. You know what I mean? I told everybody about it, right? And I just never went to my mom's house to go through her closet. You know what I mean? And so one day, my sister was like, you know what? I'm gonna go look in the closet. And so she went to my mom's house, and she looked in the closet, right? And in looking through her closet, she found the sweater that my mom was wearing in the hospital when she passed. And in the sweater, there was a letter in the pocket that my mom had written to us. You know
Oh
what I mean?
my gosh.
Yeah. And um, ooh, sorry.
No,
It
you're
was
gonna make me cry too, man. Dang.
it was
Listen, we're all criers over here. It's
yeah. It was like, wow, this is the affirmation that I was looking for. This is the that sign from God, that I really desired. You know what I mean? And I was like, wow, and after that, I never had those dreams again. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? I was like, wow, what I mean? So she wrote this letter to us, just telling us, how much she loved us, how much she would always be with us, and that she promised, that if God allows her to be in eternity in heaven with Him for eternity, that she would be praying for us nonstop. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, yeah, it was a lot. You know what I mean? And so, yeah,
mm,
it was kind of cool. You know what I mean? Like, not cool. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Really
felt.
heartwarming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Heartfelt. Yeah. And so there was that. With my dad passed in 2013. So my dad did kind of get to see me change. Um, um, I think in the beginning, my dad didn't I don't think he believed that my change was real, if that makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least that's kind of how he expressed it to me. He didn't really kind of feel like, in his mind, I was just doing it because I wasn't successful in the secular world of music or something like that. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, that's not why, But anyways, um, but he did get to see me change, and there was a period of time where my dad started going to a Protestant church, a little, not too long before his death, right? A couple of years, 2 or 3 years maybe, and we had a conversation about that one day, and for whatever reason, I just like I broke it down to him about the Eucharist and about confession and like what he's missing and what he's like, Dad, you can't at your age, you can't walk away from this. This is, you know what I mean? And so, um, coming to find out, because so my dad, he passed. He was in Laredo, Texas at the time that he passed, right? He wasn't at his house in Fort Worth. He was down visiting our ranch and working on our ranch and stuff like that. And so he was in Mercy Hospital down in Laredo. And see, he originally had gone in with pneumonia, but like most Mexican guys, he was stubborn and didn't want to go to the hospital, right? And didn't listen to my sister telling him go to the hospital. I mean, he waited a very long time. He went by the time he got to the hospital, his blood pressure had gotten so high that he ended up having a heart attack. And he also, when they were thinning his blood um, after his heart attack, one of the risks that you run is that you can get an aneurysm or a brain tumor, a brain not tumor, what do you call it? A stroke. You can get a stroke. I mean, and so my dad ended up getting an aneurysm. So the three things together all is what kind of um, ended his life. You know what I mean? And so um, I kicked myself in the butt after this one too because a week prior to my dad's death, not even a full week. No, it was a week. It was exactly a week. Um, my my dad, he would kind of go out of his way to go to my siblings, whatever they had going on, their children's birthday parties or whatever, right? And they all lived out of the city at the time, or out of state. And I lived in the same city with my dad, and he wouldn't come see us. He just and he missed my son's birthday party the week before that, right? My son's fourth, no, fifth birthday party, right? And for whatever reason, I just got so angry that day that he didn't come to my son's birthday party. And even though, like I said, we bumped heads quite a bit, I never really like raised my voice at my dad. I never yelled at him. I never cussed at him. I didn't really talk back to him because I'm from the old school. I'm almost 50. You know what I mean? We weren't raised like that. We weren't raised to talk back to our parents. You know what I mean? So, but that day, I just got so angry with my dad that he didn't go to my son's birthday party that I had some choice words for him and I told him. And that was the last conversation I had with him, was me telling him off. You know what I mean? And so I regretted that a lot. You know what I mean? And so um, I got an affirmation though, um, that my dad had been back in his Catholic faith. Like I talked um, to some of my aunts, and come to find out, my dad had been going back to mass with them, and going to confession and going to receive the Eucharist and stuff like that. And then the priest also, the priest that we consulted with there at the hospital, let us know that he was able to give him his last rites and hear his last confession and give him the Eucharist and whatnot. So I was really, really, really happy to hear that. I mean, um, now at the risk of sounding crazy, I'll tell you a little bit more of the affirmation that I got with my dad. Um, and again, this is at the risk of sounding crazy. So he's at the Mercy Hospital. So it's obviously the Divine Mercy, right? That's what this is about, the Mercy Hospital. I'm a big, I have a big devotion to Divine Mercy. And so on the way over there, I was like, praying to God. I was like, God, just don't let him die, like before I get there, or whatever you mean. He was unconscious, but he wasn't dead. He was. You mean? And so when I got there, we were just like, there's not a lot we can do right now except pray. And so I got most of my family, they're kind of nominal Catholics, kind of just in name only, right? So they weren't familiar with the Divine Mercy prayer. So I said, well, let's at least try to get three of these prayers in, one for each Father, Son, Holy Spirit, right? So maybe one today, because when I got there was a Thursday morning, one tomorrow, one Saturday, and then, we'll figure out, what we can do from there. But let's at least try to get three in for the Trinity, right? And so we started praying the Divine Mercy every day at 3 o'clock, right? Well, we had consulted with the doctors, and there was no illusion that my dad was going to survive. I mean, nobody was under the illusion that he was going to survive, and so we, the only thing keeping him alive was the life support. I mean, and so we consulted with the priest, and the priest agreed and said, no, there's, you know, he, he's he's gonna he's gonna die. You know what I mean? If you can't play God, you can't keep him here unnaturally like that. Without. I mean, you know, you gotta let him go. You mean basically he said I don't want you to have any illusion that he's gonna make it. You mean if as soon as you take him off that life support, he's gonna die. You mean and so the priest had already said it already agreed with the doctors, and so we said okay. So we decided we're gonna have a meeting on Saturday about who's gonna be there, what time we're gonna do it, all this other stuff. You know what I mean? So Saturday when we're gonna have our meeting, I told my wife, I said, "Can you watch the kids so I can walk around and clear my mind a little bit?" So she started watching. She watched the kids. I went to walking around. I'm walking up this stairway that I had been up and down multiple times over that week, and I never noticed, but there's a statue of the Divine Mercy of Jesus there in the stairway, right? And as I'm walking past it, I could have sworn that I saw somebody like do this to me, like wave their hand at me. So I looked over, and that's when I noticed the statue. And when I looked over again, risk of sounding crazy, I could have sworn I saw his finger do this, like at his heart. And I heard in my ear, as clear as day, I heard a voice say, "He's been entrusted to my sacred heart." Right? And I was just like, why, like, why my reaction was what it was, I don't know, but my immediate reaction was just to turn my face. Like I turned around and I was like, Jesus, I am not worthy to be face to face with you. Like I felt like I was face to face with Jesus. I mean, and I was like, I am not worthy, to be face to face with you, Jesus. And I turned around, and then when I looked up, there was a portrait of the Divine Mercy on this side and a portrait of Our Lady of Guadalupe on this side. And I'm like, oh man, and I just felt like overwhelmed, right? So anyways, I went back to the room where everybody was. We're about to start a meeting, right? And I look at my watch and it says 3:04, right? So I was like, okay, guys, it's already the Divine Mercy hour. Let's get our prayer in before we have the meeting. So we started our prayer, right? And about halfway into the prayer, the nurse walks in the room. She's like, it's time, guys. You got to come over here with your dad. I mean, so we went to the room. We hadn't even taken him off life support. I mean, and he's going even without being taken off. I mean, and it's like, oh wow. I mean, so all we can really do is finish our prayer. So we finished that Divine Mercy prayer. And then I sat down next to my dad and I held his hand and I prayed a rosary over my dad. And literally on the last amen, I said my last amen, my dad took his last breath. Like almost like he was waiting for me to say that last amen. You mean? And then the I overheard the doctor tell the nurses to mark his time of death at 4:04 p.m. So that was exactly 1 hour after we started our holy hour. You mean? Like Divine Mercy hour. You mean? So it's kind of like, wow, wow, like I didn't want my dad to go, but I thought in my mind, I was like, man, if you had to kind of plan your own death, that you can't beat that. You mean like that was, that was crazy. So like And then later on that evening, so later on that evening, this is where it gets crazy. Not crazy, but I'm saying it kept going the whole night. So come 10 o'clock, 10:30 around that time, nobody had eaten. Everybody's hungry. The kids are hungry. The kids are, getting, antsy. They don't really understand everything so well, what's going on. I mean, and so we had to go eat. But the only things that were open at that time were like these kind of loud, kind of bar type places, like so we're like, man, I don't really want to be around that, but there's nothing else, and the kids have to eat. You know what I mean? And so we went to this restaurant, um, and it was really loud, and there was a lot of music, and we're just kind of like, man, I'm just not feeling this. And this mariachi band was setting up, right? And as the mariachi band is setting up, I was like, man, I don't want to hear the mariachi music right now. Like, I just don't want to hear it right now. I mean, but then they start playing, and the first song they play is my dad's favorite song. A song that he loved from Trio Los Panchos. And you're on mute, by the way. Um,
Yeah, I muted it
yeah,
because I didn't
yeah,
want people to
yeah.
hear background noise. Yeah.
Okay, okay, yeah, yeah. So yeah, they played the Trio Los Panchos song. That was his favorite song, and I've never heard before that or after that. I've never heard a mariachi band play a Trio Los Panchos song, and they played his favorite song that night. The first song they played, and I remember like we were there just all just in awe. My sister was crying, my aunt was crying, and like I was like, wow, just like so much confirmation or affirmation, right? And so it was cool, I mean, so I'm thankful for that to God, and so yeah, I hope that answers your question. That was a long answer, my bad.
No, no. I mean,
My
it was.
bad.
It was. I love. I no, dude. Trust me. We all love stories like this. We all. I mean, this is real life. This happened to you. Um. Wow. Man, you got me crying over here. I was like, dang
Oh,
it.
oh, I'm
We're all
sorry. I'm
crying.
sorry.
No, I'm sure everybody else is crying too. So.
Oh
Uh,
man.
but man, wow. Very rare do we get to hear stories like that. It's very, very beautiful. Um,
Thank you. Thank
and
you.
it's also beautiful the way that you talk about your parents as well, because even
Right.
as Hispanics, we don't really get to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of our culture and whatnot. Um, so another thing I do want to ask is, were there any like experiences that you had that you, other than obviously, other than like the death of your parents and those confirmations and experiences, did you ever have any personal experiences similar, that maybe you'd like to share with everybody?
Do you mean like something that kind of drew me closer to God,
Yeah,
or that?
yeah.
Um, well, hmm, it's a good question. I could think of a few. Um,
Or was there
but I
one
think
that
I
maybe
think
like impacted you?
um I would say something that kind of not drew me to God, but drew me back to God in a sense, right? I was already involved in ministry for some time. This is in 2017, right? I was already involved in ministry for some time. And then I think I didn't allow myself when when my mom passed and when my dad passed, I didn't allow myself to properly mourn them. I mean, like I tried to keep my mind busy or try to stay busy doing things, or I was trying to stay busy working or whatever it was. And I just allowed myself to kind of fall into this deep depression, I think you could say, right? Where um, I was kind of having just a really hard time living out my faith. Like I believed, and nothing changed about my beliefs or anything, but I was just, I wasn't being consistent for a little while. Where I was skipping mass here and there. Or I hadn't been to confession for some months, probably 6 to 8 months, maybe. I wasn't praying, like, like I know when I'm really getting like into a place where I need God when I feel hesitant to pray. Like I feel like I'm not worthy to pray. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense or not, but I just wasn't praying. You know what I mean? And then I wasn't reading my scripture. I just wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing, right? and had gone out to eat with a buddy of mine. His name is Salute Garcia. He's a Protestant rapper, and we talked, and I confided in him that everything I had been going through, and he prayed over me. He's like, if you're not gonna pray, I'm gonna pray for you, bro. I was like, all right, cool, yeah, man. I don't say no to prayer. I can take all the prayer I can get. I'm not too, I'm not too proud to beg. You know what I mean? Like, and so yeah, he prayed for me. So, anyways, I dropped my friend off. It's like 11 o'clock on a Friday night. I dropped him off at his house. And his house is like 45 minutes away from my house, right? And as I'm driving home, the highways, it's a construction zone, and so it's like four lanes merging into two, and very narrow, two very narrow lanes, right? And so the posted speed limit was 40 miles per hour. So I'm merging into those lanes and I'm slowing down to 40 miles per hour. And a drunk driver comes from behind me and they were coming like 110, 115 miles per hour and they plowed into the back of me. You mean? And I think because I did have some momentum, I was going 40 miles per hour. That's kind of my saving grace, I think, because had I been at a standstill, I don't think I would have survived that. And so I was instantly knocked out. I was, I don't remember any of it happening. But there was a point at the accident scene where I kind of briefly became aware of what was going on. Right, there was paramedics in the car, and there was a woman in the car. I think it was like a good Samaritan lady, like an onlooker that was just trying to help me. And so I had been out for some time. Because it took a long time for the paramedics to get to me. And they were telling me that I'm stuck in my car. I was in my back seat, and I'm in the back seat. How I ended up in the back seat, I don't know, because I had my seatbelt and everything. Um, but crazy, there was this like huge shard of metal that went from one side, from the passenger side window, like that area over there, went straight to where my head should have been and out the window. It was sticking like it was a big, huge shard of metal going all the way across. Had I been there, it'd have gone straight through me, and I ended up in my back
Oh.
seat. You know what I mean? Yeah, crazy. But I have pictures of it somewhere. I'll send you pictures one day. But um, anyways, my windows had all broken during the accident, right? And so I could hear the people that were standing around the car, and they were saying things like, he's dead, or I think he's dying, and I heard them saying this, and so I started panicking, like I thought I was dying or I was dead already. And the paramedics were like, no, man, like we're the paramedics. Don't listen to them. Like you're not dying. You're not dead. You're hurt. You're seriously hurt. You're not gonna die. But in my mind, I just felt like they were just trying to keep me calm in the process of dying. So I just started. I was panicked, and I was just like, I just shut them off completely. I just started begging God for mercy. Like, please, God, don't let me die in a state of mortal sin. Please, like, let me live to see my family again. It's like, I promise you, if you let me live today, I'll be in confession tomorrow. And I passed out again, woke up in the hospital. My wife was there. My daughter, no, yeah, I think my daughter wasn't there because she had to be 18. She wasn't 18 yet. My sister was there. My wife and my sister were there. And yeah, it was my wife and my sister. And like I was in a neck brace. Had like a back brace. I had tubes down my nose and tubes down my throat. And I was, and they held me there for a little bit, treated me for a little bit. But I was in a trauma hospital, like a county hospital, like a trauma hospital. And at those hospitals, especially if you don't have insurance, which I didn't have at the time, I didn't have no insurance. They're just kind of like, man, if he's not dead or dying, get him out of here. You mean, patch him up and get him out. So they put these, braces and stuff on me. They put me in a wheelchair and they stuck me out on the sidewalk with my wife and told me to call the Uber. You mean? And I was like, oh, so I was there. We went home and stuff, and then that next day, like I couldn't walk. I couldn't walk. I couldn't do nothing. And I told my wife, I was like, I need to go to confession. And then my brother was there, my sister were there, and they're like, no, just wait. You don't have to get up and do anything. Like you're hurt. I said, no, I promise God, if I survived, I would be in confession today. I need to go. So we went to confession. They had to literally carry me. Like they had to like
Oh,
put my
wow.
arms over there. They had to like carry me on their shoulders to the car, into the confessional, sit me down in the confessional, put me up out of the confessional, carry me back. You know, like
Wow.
I couldn't do it on my own. You mean? I just but I went to confession, and I was like, no, I promised God I would do it, and I'm doing it. And so uh, that was a eye opener for me. And that was like, man, I need to have a lot more of a sense of urgency with my faith. You mean like I think it happens to a lot of us where we're involved in ministry, but we forget to allow ourselves to be ministered to. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah. Oh,
we're
yeah.
ministering to other people, but we forget that we also need ministry. We also need to have somebody minister to our needs, right? And
Hmm.
so that happens to us sometimes, and I think that's part of what's happening to me, and it was just kind of like an eye opener. I was like, no, I need to be fed too. I need to be ministered also. Like I need mass. I need confession. I need the Eucharist. I need adoration. I need the Bible. I need my prayer life. I need fellowship. I need all these things. You mean so? It just kind of reminded me of the urgency of that. Um, and then of course in 2023 I had uh, another accident, another very very traumatic accident where I was crossing an intersection, um, and a big box truck, like a 20-foot box truck, ran the red light going like 60 miles per hour, and they T-boned me, and that one screwed me up pretty bad, physically. Like I was hurt, and how that gave me more injuries than the first one, I don't know, but it did. I mean, um, and so I still to this day now I I have a lot of excessive pain, a lot of chronic pain in my neck, my back, shoulder, knee, hip, you name it, like I'm hurting all the time, my jaw, everything, um and I've been dealing with it for for some time now. And for a long time I used to pray to God and say, like, God, please take this away from me. And now I've kind of gotten to a point now where I feel like, you know what, God, if this is the cross that I need to bear, you mean maybe it's for my own sake, maybe it's for my own good, maybe this is helping save some purgatory time off of me, whatever the case is, I don't
Yeah.
know, right? But if it's your will, God, for me to suffer through this, you know, for the greater good or for my own good, then I accept it, and I just ask that you give me the grace and the will to suffer, gracefully, to suffer
Hmm.
to to suffer well, right?
Hmm.
I'll accept it, and let me, please help me, God, to understand how to offer this for reparation of sin, or for the well-being of my family, or for you know for the Jesus Talks podcast, or whatever the case is, right?
Yeah.
Right? Help me offer this, God. So that's where I'm at with that, and I manage it, I manage my pain now. Some days are more manageable than others, but I manage it, and I'm able to still get out there and do these concerts and do this traveling and stuff like that. And so, I'm happy,
Yeah.
So God's been really good to me.
Yeah. Um, so let's talk a little bit about your music.
Okay.
Now, you obviously you obviously like you've taken rap onto a whole nother level, implementing your Catholic faith. Now, was that easy? Was that very easy for you to do because you already were starting to grow a love for it, or was that a little hard for you to implement both of them
Um,
together?
in the beginning, it was a little difficult because I realized, um, okay, as a Protestant rapper, when I first started doing Christian hip hop, right, when I considered myself to be Protestant at the time, it wasn't as hard. And again, not to knock them, but there's not as deep of a theology there. There's not as much of a because with Catholics, we have to be very mindful of orthodoxy, right? We have to be very mindful of capital T tradition, right? Um, we have to be very mindful of the magisterium and what we're saying if it's in line with the magisterium of the church. So there's a lot, in the Protestant world, it's kind of like me and my Bible, me and Jesus, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And again, I don't mean that in like in a way where I'm being condescending or being dismissive, and I just that's kind of how it was. It's like I could kind of say what I wanted to say, and nobody was really there to kind of tell me otherwise. You mean because it was kind of like I feel like Protestant Christianity has kind of spiraled into like a realm of moral and theological relativism. Does that make sense? And
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
everybody can kind of believe what they want to believe and say what they want to say as long as you love Jesus, right? And so it wasn't as hard then. But when I started making the transition into doing Catholic rap, I realized I was like, I don't know my faith as nearly as well as I thought I did. So I had to study and I had to really, really just like 10 toes down, like study this faith. And I was doing like free college courses and watching as many apologetics videos and reading as many apologetics books as I could. I was doing all of that, and slowly but surely I started like really started kind of like getting in there and being able to be very distinctly Catholic without, you know, without kind of falling into like saying something that was not in line with our faith, if that makes sense, right? And
Yeah.
so it took a little while, but I got it done. I mean, um, nowadays I don't do as much of the apologetical type stuff, right? I don't do as much of the catechesis type stuff as much. I still do it. I still love it. But I find myself nowadays doing a little bit more testimonial type
Hmm.
music or a little bit more like I want to build bridges. You mean? I want to build bridges. So I do a lot of collaborations with Protestant artists because I like, you know what, guys, like I want to build bridges, man. I don't want to put up walls. We got enough walls
Hmm.
up as it is. You mean? So
Hmm.
let's come together, and if there's something we can that we disagree on, and there's a respectful way to have a dialogue, and yeah, charitable way of that, prudent way of doing that, I'm all for it. I mean, 'cause I want to bring everybody to the fullest truth, but I don't want to fight with you. I don't want to fight with nobody. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
let's, let's grow together. Let's grow together.
Yeah.
You mean? And so yeah, that's what I find myself doing a lot lately. You mean? A lot more kind of just more personal stuff, right? Like more from the heart. Again, I'm not opposed to the others, the catechesis and the apologetics and all that stuff. I love that. You mean? Um, that's just kind of where I'm at right now with my faith. You mean?
Uh, and do you have a favorite collaboration with? What's your favorite like Protestant collaboration that you've done? And what's your favorite collaboration that you've done with the Catholic as well?
Oh wow.
I
One
know.
one of my more
No,
I've got
I put
I,
Prodigal on the same spot too, or yesterday.
yeah.
And,
Okay, awesome. No, that's a good question though. That is a good question. I think I have two on the Protestant side. So I got a brother of mine. I'm gonna say I'm gonna stop code switching. I got a homeboy of mine, right? My homeboy, his name is Sick of Sin, right? Have you ever heard of Father Joshua Johnson? He's
yes,
the
yes, I
priest
have. I
from Baton
love
Rouge,
him.
Louisiana.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, his
yeah.
brother's a Protestant rapper. His brother's name is Sick of Sin, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like SICKA, Sicka, Sin, right? So Sicka Sins. So me and Matt is his name. We did a song last year called Deuces, right? Shot a video for it in Houston. Really cool, man. Matt's a cool dude. We've had him out at a few of our hip hop and tacos events. I mean, super cool dude, man. We just get along so well, man. And we did the song called Deuces, and that one just kind of took off. It got real popular for a while. I mean, still gets a lot of views and stuff like that. I mean, and it just kind of has like a real southern type of feel because that's like a screwed up hook. Um, it's got like a real kind of deep, hard bass. Like it's just kind of like it just makes you feel like, all right, cool. You mean? And then the other one is a new one that I'm getting ready to release, that I'm gonna be next weekend. Me and Val Morale, we're gonna be
Love the guy. Love the guy, man.
yeah,
He's
yeah,
wonderful. We had him on the
yeah.
show, so yeah.
I saw, yeah. He's me and him are gonna be performing together in Los Angeles next weekend at the Sacred Fire Catholic Summer Concert, or Summer Catholic Concert. Yeah. So we're gonna be out there performing, right? Um, well, me and him had just done a recent collabo with two like old school OG Chicano rappers, right? So I used to be really big into like Chicano rap. I used to love Chicano rap. You know what I mean? Um, and one of my favorite rappers growing up was a guy named AOT the Saint. Well, AOT, he used to rap with guys like Kid Frost and people like that. He did some ghostwriting for like Easy E and Ice T, people like that, right? So I used to love AOT from the time I was like 13. I used to love his music. I mean, here a few years ago, I was able to meet him and talk to him, and as he's making his faith journey. And so he's everything he's done over the past few years has been faith based, right? So we had a collab a few years ago, probably like 2021 or 2022. Um, and then we did another collab here recently, me and him, Val, and then this other guy named MC Boulevard. So I don't know if you know who MC Boulevard is, but his kind of claim to fame was do you remember the movie American Me?
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes.
So when that movie came out, you don't know about this, but there used to be a thing called DVDs and VHS cassette tapes, right? Um, right.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
when that movie came out on home video, it was released with a documentary that came with it, right? And in the documentary, MC Boulevard was in there rapping the song called "I Remember You, Homie," right? And he got real popular off that, and so him and AOT were two of the Chicano rappers that I grew up listening to. I listened to them. In fact, it's funny. Boulevard came performed at the high school that I went to when I got kicked out of my school year. So
Oh
when I was
my
down at
goodness.
Laredo, Boulevard went and performed at that school. With it's crazy how yeah, everything kind of like does like a full
Online. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so anyway, so me, Boulevard, AOT, and Val collaborated on a song called One God that we're going to be releasing. I don't know the exact release date yet, but we're filming the video next week in Los Angeles while we're there. And so and we're gonna be performing that song. All of us together will be performing it at the concert. Um, and that's become one of my new favorites. Yeah, because it's with two of the artists that I really enjoyed growing up. I mean, and now that I've got a working relationship with them, and a friendship with them, is really cool. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like very reminiscent of like that old West Coast Chicano sound. You know what I mean? That was popular with me growing up. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
yeah, it's kind of reminiscent of that. You know what I mean? Val's the hook that Val does on the song, because Val does the hook, gives it a little bit of the more modern touch that I think it needed. You know what I mean? So it is reminiscent of that old sound, but it still sounds new, so to say, right? So that's
Hmm.
one of my favorites also. And then on the Catholic side, favorite collaborations. Ooh, I
Hey,
think there's
imagine Val
probably
watching and Val's probably like, better say me, bro.
well Val, I'm not gonna include Foundation because Foundation is my group, right? We
Yeah,
collab on everything.
that'd be kind of biased if you
Yeah,
chose
so
your own group.
exactly. So John Levi, Nico Santana, Separate Mind, and Val Morale are all part of my group, part of Foundation. So I'm not gonna include any songs with them per se, right? Okay. Outside of them, um, there's a song that I have together with Prodigal and Enoch. It's called Double Edged. That was
Oh, that was
my
my favorite.
song. Yeah, that's my song. And then Enoch asked me if he could put it on his album as well. So Enoch put it on his album also. So it's on my
I thought
catalog,
it
but
was
it's
Enoch's
also
song. I'll be honest with you. I really thought it was Enoch's song, and I was like,
no,
"Oh,
no,
that's
it's
so
mine.
cool!
Yeah,
They did a feature." I didn't realize it was yours, dude. That one is, and I literally, I'm not even kidding. That's on my playlist. Like that's literally on my daily because I have a playlist that I have that
yeah.
I listen to every day, and that is part of my playlist. Like all of your guys'
Nice.
music is on there. So,
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, yeah. So that double edged. Enoch came to Texas, and while he was here, I said, "Hey man, let's knock out a collabo while you're here." So we went to the studio, knocked it out. At least knocked out the recording of it, and then we got we got Prodigal to drop the hook on it, and then we just I got it mixed, got it mastered. I did the release on it and everything. After I released it, that's when Enoch put it on his album and re-released it, kind of. You know what I mean? So yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's that song. It's that's a that one gets a lot of love. That one does get a lot of love. Another favorite Catholic collabo. Um, whew, I like this song a lot. Um, there's a song. It's called. It's mostly in Spanish, but my verse is in English. But it's a collaboration with Rio Squad. Are you familiar with Rio Squad? They're from New
I
York.
might have heard the name, but I don't remember.
They're a Spanish rap group from New York. They're dope. They're so dope, and they're so cool. That they're such cool people, man. Um, but it's they're on the song. I'm on the song. Rob Reyes is on the song. Danny Ruiz is on the song, and
Ooh, love Danny over here.
Half Holy, Half Hood is on the song. So it's the six of us on the song. And that one's hard. That one's a hard one. It's called No Tengo Miedo. Yo no tengo miedo. Yo no tengo. Yeah,
Oh,
that
I've
was.
heard it. Yeah, 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 yeah. I've heard
Have
it.
you heard that
I've
one?
heard it actually. Yes, 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 yes. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So I have the.
Because I do listen to Danny as well, so he's another one of my favorites today. Yeah.
Okay, cool, cool. Yeah, that I have the first verse on that song. I said, devil, you ain't on my level, let alone God's level. You know what I mean? That's me through that starting line. You know what I mean? So, um, yeah, I think that was it. Yeah, I mean, I could say one more. There's another one called Living Proof with me and my homeboy Cody Free. That one, I love that one right there. It's real smooth, laid back. It's got like a saxophone on the track, and it's just that one's. I like that one a lot too. So Cody Free, shout out to him too. He's a dope rapper too. Yeah.
Um. Then there's another question that I do want to ask is there a specific saint that you have a strong devotion to? Maybe one that maybe you entrusted your music ministry.
Well, the music ministry, Saint Cecilia, right? Um, or yeah, Saint Cecilia, right? Yeah, she's the patroness of for musicians, right? Saint Cecilia. Um, I want to say that's right. I might be mist.
Don't ask me. I'm really terrible when it comes to
Oh,
to.
oh,
Hold
yeah.
on.
I want to say Saint Cecilia. Why did all of a sudden am I second guessing myself? Yeah, Saint Cecilia. Um,
Okay.
you got it. You looking it up?
Yep. Saint Cecilia is a Roman martyr and the patroness of music and musicians. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
right.
So her Saint Gemma Galgani.
Oh, love her. Love her.
Funny story about her. So she is the patroness for people who suffer with chronic pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I had put a screensaver of her on my phone, and I was at a conference, at a Catholic conference, and the guy looks at my phone. He saw that I had her on my screensaver. He's like, "Oh, that's smart, man. That's a real good way of to prevent yourself from looking at things you're not supposed to be looking at." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "Hold on, what do you mean?" He's like, "Don't is that why you have her as a screensaver?" I was like, "I'm not understanding. Like, what are you saying?" He's like, "Well, she's the patroness of people who struggle with sexual impurity." You mean? So like, and I was like, "Oh," I said, "No, dude. I said she's also the patroness of people who struggle with chronic pain. That's why I have her on there." He's like, "Oh," he's like, "I thought you put her there, so maybe you were tempted to look at pornography or something." I was like, "No, no, 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 that's not me, bro. Like, my bad, bro. Like, yeah." I was like,
Can you imagine? That must have been a really awkward conversation.
so
He's gonna be like, dang, he's like,
yeah, it was
probably
weird,
over
bro. I was
here,
like,
like, dang, like, he's over here assuming, like, oh,
Yeah.
try to keep yourself in check, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
funny though. That's
So,
actually quite hilarious.
then recently, I feel like I feel like I have a interest in being in having a devotion to Saint Sebastian. Um, because when we were out there in Kentucky at that conference, the Relic Project was out there. Shout out to Anthony and Relic Project, right? Um, and he had this thing where he was letting people draw cards, right? And if you draw a certain saint, that's the saint that wants to be with you and walk with you in your life, right? And I drew Saint Sebastian, right? And I was like,
Oh,
wow, right? And so okay, kind of find out, I didn't know that much about him, but kind of find out he was in a situation where he was facing death, like he was near death, and was spared so he can come back and be and evangelize. And I was like, well, that's kind of ironic because I was spared death in my car wreck, and allowed to come back to evangelize. And
yeah.
so, hey, yeah, so I kind of have an interest there. I haven't quite developed it yet, but I need to look further into that and do that for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah,
I actually, it was funny. They actually asked me because I know what you're talking about. They actually asked me. They're like, oh, like who do you think you're gonna pick and whatnot. I told them, and I was like, I think it's gonna be either Saint Joseph or Saint Michael. And
yeah,
then they're like, how do you know? I'm like because I have a huge devotion to both of them, especially
yeah.
Saint Joseph. Like he's the one that I lean on the most. And I literally I was actually when I was playing it out because I was like, if I don't get either one of these two, I'm like, I'm about to look like a fool. I'm about to look like a fool right now. I'm like,
Yeah,
but I literally looked at him. I was like, I think I'm gonna pull Saint Joseph.
yeah.
Come to find out, I pulled this exact image of Saint Joseph, which, by the
Oh,
way, I have an
wow.
exact statue. I have the exact statue of this, and this was before I even got like this card. I have an exact statue at home of Saint Joseph,
Wow.
this exact image and everything. And so when I
Wow.
pulled it out, they were all just like they were like, "What the heck?" And like their faces all dropped because they're like, "Yo!" And like for
Yeah.
example, like William and a couple of others, like they knew that I had a huge devotion to Saint Joseph, and I was like, "I told you guys," and I was really happy because it kind of that
Yeah.
kind of felt like a confirmation for me, because I was
Yeah.
like, "Yes," I'm like, "I know I'm not crazy," because there are sometimes where you can feel like the saints are really with you. Or a
Yeah.
certain saint
Yeah.
is really with you. And I always felt like Saint Joseph always took really good care of me. And he's always
Wow.
been he's always been that saint for me. So when I pulled it out, I was like the happiest girl
Wow.
ever. William pulled
Wow.
out Mama, the Virgen de Guadalupe.
Wow.
And he wasn't even
Wow.
shocked because we're like, there's no way you're not gonna not pull Mama Mary because he's known as the Mary guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Elizabeth ended up pulling Saint Gabriel. And
Wow.
she started crying
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
imagine, like, this was the aim, and also keep in mind, Elizabeth does a lot of pro-life work. So,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
connection
Uh-huh.
between Saint Gabriel and
And the
between the
pro-life
work that she's
mission. Yeah.
doing, like, that's
Yeah. Yeah.
insane.
Like
Yeah.
the Gabriel Project and things like that. Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
That's so
was.
cool.
She's. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Man.
is so
We
cool.
lo- and we do have a question.
Okay,
he's
okay.
he,
I'm not
he,
saying
he he's kind of trolling, but he's somewhat trolling. But it is a somewhat good question. He's like, C2SIX, have you tried Vegemite? It's an Australian spread that they sell. He said it tastes like lamb. It does not taste like lamb. He Yeah, he's been telling people that it tastes like different things. The other day he told me that it tastes like strawberry jam, and then the other day he says like, oh, it tastes like roast chicken. So
Oh
this guy,
wow.
yeah, he's
Is it
joking, but
Bronca? Is that the one? Bronca
yeah, Bronca.
2222?
Yeah.
Hey, can you
Have you
put it
tried
in
Vegemite?
tacos? Can you put it in tacos? If you can put it in tacos, I'll try it. I haven't tried it
I don't.
before.
You have to actually. It's an Australian spread, so what you have to do is like, it goes more on like a toast. Like you put like this is what I heard you have to do. You have to like, get like a toast and then put butter on it first, and then put
Okay.
don't put an ex. Isn't something like you put excessively. Like you have to put a very small amount of Vegemite
Uh-huh.
and like that's the way. Apparently, that's the way that you can eat it. But it's not like peanut butter and jelly when you can like spread the whole thing. Like it's and you can't just take like a spoonful of it. Like it has to.
Yeah.
It's so weird, but like there's a specific way that you have to like eat it.
Wow. Well,
Hmm
you know what? I've not had Vegemite. I have had barbacoa, carnitas, uh,
We're so
al
Mexican, bro.
pastor. You know what I'm saying? I've had
We're so
all that.
Hispanic, bro.
Tacos de lengua. I've had all that. You know what I mean? Tripitas,
Wait, wait,
all
wait,
that.
wait, 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 wait. I gotta ask you though. So we're talking about tacos now. What's your favorite taco?
Ooh, ooh. That depends where I go. That depends where I go. Okay. I used to be scared. I used to be scared to eat lengua. And I used like I never ate it as a kid. And when I became an adult, I told myself I'm gonna eat some lengua. I'm gonna see what it's if the hype is real. You know what I mean? So I went and got me some a lengua taco, and I was like, I ate it, and I was like, oh my goodness, where have you been my whole life? You know what I mean? Like, oh
Hmm
my goodness, I was like, so I was like, man, and so I have two favorite places where I get the best tacos de lengua. One is down in Laredo, Texas, and the name of the place is my dad's name too. It's called Raul's. Raul's
hmm
barbecue, and they have the best lengua or barbacoa tacos you ever have. Fresh homemade flour tortillas with some super super soft, like tender lengua with fresh homemade salsita. You mean? Oh my gosh! And then there's a place here in my town. We have a mall here. It's basically like a Mexican mall, right? It's called La Gran Plaza, and their food court is nothing but like Mexican food, like mariscos and taquerias and pozolerias and all that type of stuff. I mean, so they have this place down there called El Tatemado, and they make fresh homemade tortillas like corn tortillas, and they give you this lengua and salsa verde. Oh my gosh, when it's super tender, like super, oh, you can't beat it, right? Yeah, but then like like if you go to Mexico and you get like some of the pastor tacos down in Mexico,
Those
it's
snacks,
hard to
bro.
beat that. Or if you go to Mexico, like Mexico City, like I'll be in Mexico City in a couple weeks, right? The tacos de suadero. Oh my goodness.
Dude,
Oh my
they're
goodness.
oh my gosh. They're
Yeah.
dude, when I went to Mexico, bro, I was eating like there was you want to know what? And I think this is how I definitely knew that God loves me because you want to know why? Because that's the
Uh,
first thing I want to try was tacos. And so I didn't know, like it was the first time I was like meeting my family from Mexico, like my grandma, and we were staying with her, my sister and I. And right across when we get home, right across from her place was a taco stand right in front of her house, bro.
whoa.
And I was like,
Oh.
"Ah," and I was like, I
Yeah.
have to. And like I remember asked my
Yeah.
grandma, I'm like, Grandma, I'm like, I know it's late. I know y'all are probably tired, but I want some
Yeah.
tacos, man. I'm like, abuelita, I'm like, Roberta, I'm like, please, 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 let me get some tacos. And
Yeah.
and she was so excited. She's like, go. So she gave me money because grandma's up to spoil us. And we went over there to go get tacos, bro. And it was like, bye. Like it was the most amazing
Wow.
tacos ever. And dude, I was eating tacos like almost every single day, bro. Almost every single day.
Wow.
Every single time we went because we would go like watch the city and all that stuff. We would come back home late, and they would be open, and so they were like, "Do you want tacos?" And I'm like, "Heck yeah!" So like we would just go, we would eat it, bro, and it was fire. It was
Yeah.
fire, bro,
I'm
dude. And
telling
then
you.
something about the sodas there too,
Ooh.
dude. Something like for example, like the Coke
Oh.
there tastes really good. Like I don't know
Yeah.
what it is, but like the sodas there just way different than like when you try it here in the U.S., bro.
They have do you like the toronja soda, like the jarrito de toronja or like the fresca or the Fanta de toronja? Do you like any of those? Like the grapefruit
Uh,
flavor ones?
oh
Like
yeah, yeah,
Squirt,
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Squirt, for example. In Mexico, they have a Squirt, which is the grapefruit flavor, right? Soda with limon. I'm like, oh my goodness. That thing is good. You can't find it here. You know what I mean? But like, what part of Mexico is your family in?
They're from Acámbaro. It's a small place from like near Guadalajara, I think. Um,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Is it in
I don't know.
Jalisco?
I actually don't even know, bro. So, uh,
Okay. Ooh. Yeah, you
oh,
there? I got
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. I know. Yeah, it kind of
Okay.
froze up a little bit. Yeah, I was saying like I'm
Yeah.
not too sure where necessarily it is. I just know that it's called like Gambaro. So, but, but yeah, it's dude the like and you know what though? I was
Yeah.
so disappointed when I came home to the U.S. and like the
Yeah.
tacos just didn't hit, bro. And I was like, ugh, like you
Oh,
spent a whole month and I spent a whole month in Mexico. Those tacos
yeah.
were fire, bro. And I was like, oh, you
I
just
know. I
like
know.
no place in the U.S. are you gonna find
In my
tacos that
in my
fire.
opinion, this is my opinion. My opinion, the best Mexican food in the United States is in Laredo, Texas.
Why did everybody say that Texas has good tacos? Because you know what? William tells me the same thing. Be like, oh, our meat is so different and it's so good and this and that. And
Yeah.
I was like, nah, I'm like, you're probably exaggerating. But like everybody keeps telling me that Texas has like the best meat there.
Well, you know what, too? I'll give props to California. Um,
I
it's
am more of a
funny to
Cali
say
girl.
this. Well, I'm gonna give you. I'll give props because one of the places that I had some great Mexican food in a small town along the border right there in California called El Centro. They got some pretty crazy good food. Like I don't know what it is about the little small towns on the border. They got some fire.
They know,
You
yeah.
know?
They know how to do,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
William, because William lives in Texas, so he doesn't
Mhm.
live that far from the border to to
Oh
Mexico.
no, he lives right by the border, like
Yeah,
2 minutes.
yeah, and like not, and it's so funny because he was like, I'm gonna go get my Diet Coke or something. He gets his soda from Mexico. Like he literally, boom, just goes to
Yeah,
the border, go gets his like whether he wants like food or drinks or something, and then comes right back. And I'm like, imagine just
yeah.
living 2 minutes away and you could just go back and forth
I,
and be like, I'm gonna go
I
get
used
some
to do that a
soda.
lot in high school. When I was in high school, I lived in Laredo, Texas. So like we would every weekend we would go across the border to party and come back. Boom, 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 just going across, walking over, bar hopping, club hopping, stuff like that. So yeah, it's doable. It's we can't do it nowadays in Laredo because it's Nuevo Laredo is crazy. You go over
Yeah,
there and mess around and get kidnapped or
yeah,
something. You mean, but back then we used to do it a lot. You mean, I
yeah.
have a ranch. My family and I have a ranch in South Texas, about 40 miles north of the Mexican border, 37 miles to be exact. So we're right there. I mean, so and we have family all over Laredo and stuff too. So yeah, yeah. I'm real big on my Mexican culture. I love my Mexican culture. I mean,
Yeah, me too, bro. I
yeah,
love it. Love it,
yeah.
love it, love it, man. Like, dude, like honestly, and you know what? You know what I love is the fact that like our people, like especially Catholics, when it's like the 12th of December, bro, like we go all out for La
Oh
Virgencita.
yeah,
Like we go all out. Like
yeah,
that's just that for me is always a beautiful thing. Getting to see getting to represent that,
yeah,
represent that
yeah,
part of our faith about how much we love Mama Mary, how much
yeah,
we celebrate her on the 12th of December every
yeah,
year. Like we
yeah,
dance for her, we sing to her, we celebrate her. Like that's such a
yeah,
like and like I always am like you can't find that anywhere else though. You really,
yeah,
really can't. Because I'm like I
yeah,
can't think of any other faith that goes as wild and as crazy as Catholics do
yeah.
when it comes to Mama Mary.
You know what's crazy? One time in 2019, right before the pandemic, I was out in New York for the feast day of Our Lady of Guadalupe, right? We did a procession from South Bronx, walking all the way down Manhattan, all the way
Mm,
down to
wow.
Lower Manhattan. So we had to go across that bridge and then walk down all the way through Manhattan. Late at night in the like icy, snowy weather doing the procession. And it was a lot of people doing it. And I was like, man, these people are dedicated. They're out here in the cold, icy weather. You mean like making this long walk, you mean, through New York City? And that was such an amazing experience for me because like we stopped, we were walking, we started in South Bronx, we walked across and we stopped every so many blocks to be able to perform somebody would pray and then we do a couple songs and then we do the procession. We continue all the way down to South to Soho, I think is what they call it, like the South
Mhm.
southern part of Manhattan, and then they picked me up in a car and took me back up to Yonkers, because I was performing overnight at one of the mañanitas they were doing in Yonkers. So I did a performance like at 3 o'clock in the morning almost. You know, in there in the church, and there was like 1,000 people there. And I was like, what? At 3 o'clock in the morning, like on a weekday? Like crazy, you know, like crazy. Yeah. It was cool
Yeah.
though. It was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now Bronco does want to know, and again, he's somewhat trolling. He's a good brother. He likes to be silly sometimes. He's asking you soft or hard shell tacos.
Does he live in Australia?
He lives in Australia, yeah, but he's trolling because
Okay.
you know because
No,
you know
no,
how
but
like
I know, but I'm saying he gets a pass on that because he's from Australia, though. Because here in Texas, you say soft or hard shell, that's like blasphemy. You know, it's like no, it's gotta be. You can't. There ain't no such thing as no hard shells in Mexican food. You know, ain't no such thing. That's a Taco Bell
mm,
thing. You know what
yeah, yeah, and look,
I
and that's why I say that hard shell.
mean?
These guys
Yeah,
are funny. No, and you know what though? It's funny because earlier when you said like what your favorite, you said lengua was your favorite taco, and TJ was saying first he got excited because you were talking about tacos, and then he said al pastor, and then he said brother lock in. There's some other answer,
yeah.
and then he loves al
Hey,
pastor, and then he said come on that's heresy.
oh,
Um,
oh,
and then
but
he
you know
also
what?
said this. He says this. He eats tacos and lenguas, penance for time of purgatory.
Yeah,
Understandable.
maybe that's what God has me doing it. You know what I mean? But no, the tacos al pastor are great too. You can't knock them, especially when they got the pineapple in them. Ooh,
Oh yeah. Oh
that
yeah.
pineapple,
When
yeah.
man,
The
I don't know
best.
how I don't know how we started talking about food, man, but hey, I love
I
it.
could talk about food all day. I could talk about
Me
food all
too, bro.
day. I'm a huge foodie. Like it's so like when I go to different cities, I plan my travels around where I want to go eat. You mean? Like, oh man. Like when I go to New York, I'm like, I need to get me some mofongo. I need to get me some whatever, you know, like some tostones, some arroz con gandules. You gotta say it like the Puerto Ricans say, arroz con gandule. You know, you gotta say it like the Puerto Ricans, right? You gotta, you know, when I go to like, man, when I go to Chicago, give me a good pizza, some good, you know,
Dude, Chicago
Italian
has
beef sandwiches.
bomb pizza, man. Chicago
Yeah,
has bomb pizza. Like I am not gonna let their deep dish pizzas, bro,
yeah,
off the chart,
yeah,
man. Off the
yeah,
chart. Off the chart,
yeah,
brother. Like it's just
yeah.
man. But anyways,
Well,
anyways.
I'm sorry I'm holding you up talking about food. My bad. I
No,
don't know
no,
if you can
no, no,
tell I'm
no, no.
hungry.
You're fine. You're fine. Yeah, yeah. Anyways, to kind of wrap up, brother, first off, this was a great conversation. I definitely need to bring you back, and we need to start talking about all these different things.
Yeah,
It is fun. It's nice to get to talk about this.
yeah.
Um, thank you first of all for sharing your story with us. That was beautiful.
You're welcome.
Definitely had me crying on the inside a little bit, because I'm like, man, I love testimonies, and I'm a huge sucker for them. And what a beautiful gift that the Lord has given you. And wow, and that was powerful. Um, so to kind of conclude, why don't you let us know where can we find you in your work? Which obviously I'm gonna post your social medias and all that so people can check that out.
Uh-huh.
So if you want to just let us know where can we find you on social media, your music, and then if you have any last words, any last advice for anybody that's listening, just in general, you go ahead
Hmm.
and do that, and then we can, yeah.
So if you can see my name spelled out right there, the C2SIX. That's my name on all the social media platforms. That's my name on all the streaming platforms. So you can just look me up on any of them and you'll find me there, right? Um, that's also my website, C2SIX.com. Try to make things easy, right? C2SIX.com. You can book me for any type of event, anywhere, anywhere, like literally anywhere. I'll go. Um, I've
You'll
been
go to
in
Australia, right? You'll go to
I
Australia
will.
where
No,
Bronco lives.
I will. Yeah, I definitely will. I'll get out there. I'll get out. I've been out in Brazil and Panama and Mexico and Canada
Oh
and
wow.
kind of
Okay.
all over. And so yeah, I'll go anywhere. Um, and yeah, you book me for speaking or for performing or both. and I'm happy to get out and do it. And I can provide for you any of the credentials you might need, whether it be a letter from my of good standing or my safe environment, certification and whatnot, references, any of those things, right? So just um, yeah, you can reach me. I've been really bad about checking my messages lately on social media platforms.
I'm bad with
So
emails, bro. I'm terrible
uh,
with emails.
I'm better on emails or text, right? But um, if you want to email me, it's info, like short for information, right? Info at C2SIX.com. So that's an easy one. You can email me there, and I'm happy again, and I will work with you despite whatever the budget is or lack of budget. I'll work with you. I've been very blessed recently, um, to the point where I I never want money to be a sticking point. I never want money to be the reason why I can't make it to go out there and do God's work, right? So I'll work with you. You mean whatever it is
Mhm.
you're able and willing to offer, I'm cool. You mean?
Okay.
Yeah. Just letting you
Yeah.
know.
So
In some cases, even if it's just covering my expenses, I don't, and even if I don't get a stipend or whatever the case is, that's cool. Let's just get the work done. You mean? So,
okay. All right, so you guys heard it here. If you guys wanna, I will be linking down all of his social medias and his website and everything down in the description below, especially those who are catching the replay later, because I know some people can't always join the live. They watch it later. So those who are watching it, you can find us all the stuff on in the description below. I want to thank everybody for staying here with us and for listening to this story, this testimony, this dialogue, this conversation. I hope to keep hosting more of these conversations. I think they're beautiful, and I think it's always a blessing to be able to hear different stories, different backgrounds, see how the Lord works in people's lives. Doesn't matter
like
where, it doesn't matter what you've done, doesn't matter where you've been. The Lord works with everyone.
if I can say one small thing real quick, I just
Hmm.
want to say that I really appreciate you, and I was really pleased to hear that you're only 25 years old and you're doing the work that you're doing. Like, like this might sound like a totally dad thing, but I'm very proud of you, and I'm happy to see that you're doing what you're doing, and I want to encourage you to keep doing that, and keep being that light to the world around you, because you've got a very good, you know, a very brightness, a brightness about yourself is what I'm trying to say, right? And
Yeah.
uh, it's very refreshing to see a person of your age, doing the work you're doing. So I encourage you, and I support you, and just really proud to see that you're doing what you're doing. So
Oh, thank you so much. I do appreciate that. I
yeah,
do. I know I know you don't really get to see a lot of young people getting to do this, to do at least what I'm doing, trying to host these, trying to bring awareness into so much that we have in Catholicism. Like, I mean, and that's the thing. It's like I don't just bring on apologists. I don't just bring on just anybody. Like I want to be able to highlight our faith really well, and if I could bring on musicians like yourself, Catholic hip hop, like that's like a lot of people like rap music, but a lot of people don't realize like you can be Catholic and you can do rap at the same time, man.
hmm
Like you can,
hmm
like you can listen to actual good music that will edify you. And so that is why I wanted to really bring you guys on, you and the rest of the other group. And I'm gonna continue having almost everybody said yes to me. So I was a happy
yeah,
girl. I was like, I didn't get told no. I didn't have to
yeah,
face any rejection. I was like, thank God. But
yeah.
yeah, so I'm really, really excited. And I really do want to thank you for your testimony. That was
Mhm.
beautiful. The music that you're doing, it's incredible. I do encourage everybody to please check it out. Please subscribe. I know somebody just said that they subbed. So thank you so much.
Awesome,
Please go and subscribe to
awesome.
him. Show him some love on his music. He has new music coming out. He gave me a couple of teasers earlier, and I'm not gonna lie, you guys are gonna love it because it's fire, bro. I was so excited.
Thank
I
you,
already
thank
have
you.
one that's like my favorite. So, uh,
Nice, nice. Thank
yeah,
you. I
yeah.
appreciate that. All right.
All right. So
Well,
thank you guys so much. God bless. Until next time, everybody. And as always, make sure y'all make it to the sacraments. Go to mass, go to church, go to adoration, go to confession. Don't be a heretic. Don't be a Pharisee. You know, just go
Mhm.
and go out there and do what you need to do.
Amen.
All
God
right.
bless.
God bless.
Huh.
All right.